Good day, my friends. I was thinking, and I have been on and off for some years actually, about that blessing or prayer which is known worldwide as the Lord's Prayer. Because I've taken an interest in poetry in the past, I've written a few poems. I don't claim to be a literary expert, but with my limited experience, I have several times looked at the Lord's Prayer, and several things from a literary point of view seemed obvious to me. One is that when we used to say the Lord's Prayer when I was a child, almost everyone used to say, "Our Father, which art in heaven." Nowadays, and for some years now, there is the tendency to say, "Our Father, who art in heaven." Should it be whom art in heaven? No, who art in heaven. Anyone with any education at all will know quite definitely that which and who do not mean the same thing. I just want to make sure that it's counting because I can't see the timer. Oh, it is definitely. Yeah, okay. I'm trying a program out for the first time here, and the writing's very small on the screen. Yes, so anyone will know that who and which do not mean the same thing. And I believe which to be more correct because it is known that God, if you want to use that term, God is not a being, it's not a personality, it is a thing. In fact, it includes all personality, all manifestation, all that there is. And so it's which, not who or whom. But the other thing that I noted about this Lord's Prayer is that it starts off with a certain style of writing. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then it changes style and it comes out with absurd things like, give us this day our daily bread. It's like making a demand. You don't demand from God. It's not a very nice way of phrasing it, is it? It's okay to say, "Oh wondrous God, give me the power to be of greater service to my fellow man." Not give me my daily bread. Never mind about anybody else, give me my daily bread. It's not very nice. And there are several other lines that follow it. You know which they are, which are in that style of writing, and then it reverts. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory forever. And it became obvious to me, as I'm sure it is to a lot of people, that at some stage through history, someone somewhere down the line has inserted a number of lines in and it has brought the meaning down to a more basic level. It is basically, I almost want to say, destroyed the blessing. When you look at the prayer with even a basic metaphysical understanding, and with the offending lines removed, it makes complete sense. So let's just go through it, and this is my interpretation of the meaning. I'm going to do an Uncle Raggy here. Some people will know what I mean by this, as I've just made a cup of tea. And cheers, Uncle Raggy, if you ever watch this. I have to have a drink because slightly sore throat, which I'm afraid often happens to me these days. Anyway, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father. First of all, our, yes, because I'll come to Father in a second, but it's the Father of us all in this solar system. And I will come to that as I go through. But why Father and not Mother? Again, anyone with a basic metaphysical understanding will know that in metaphysical principles there are two essential energy polarities. and they can be described using simple terminology. I'm staying away as much as possible from complex Sanskrit or whatever. We have positive, male, creative, and negative, female, preservative. They're complementary, and you need them both. And for something to be manifested, you need the positive creative, which is then reinforced or complemented by the female negative preservative energies to keep that thing, whatever it is, in manifestation, to preserve it. Which, tongue-in-cheek, and I don't take this in the right context, which is why we have this thing, particularly on Earth here, of the man. I mean, I'm not saying that men and women have to stick to this, please no. I'm just talking about basic ideas, basic concepts. The man goes out to work, earns the money and creates the home. The woman stays at home and she preserves the home. Male creative, female preservative. And on a basic energy level, it's like that throughout the cosmos. Male positive creative, complemented by female negative preservative. And it's a fundamental principle through all things. But in metaphysical understanding, on this earth at least, when a creator, a thought creator, creates something, it is somewhat similar to a parent bringing forth a child, their creation. And because it is male positive creative, the parent is regarded as being a male parent. And therefore, the sun which brought forth the solar system is the father of everything in the solar system from a metaphysical point of view. Most people on the earth at some stage will have looked up at the night sky particularly and regarded it as the heavens, the vast panorama of the heavens. So the sun is our Father which is in heaven, which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed, it basically means blessed. Blessed is thy name, O Son. Now, which name? There are numerous names for the Son. The holiest name that we have on earth for the Son, it is a name which should never, note that, it's not guesswork, should never be said as a word in conversation. And it is spelt by the three letters spelled as A-U-M. Now, people particularly in India and other places, not all but some, if you mention this to them, they will say, oh yes, you mean the, and they will say it as a word. Never, please my friends, heed this. It's not guesswork. I've had a good teacher. Never, ever, not ever say that word as a word in conversation, in chit-chat. Use it in spiritual practices, yes, that's what it's for, if you like. But don't say it in conversation. Refer to it as the word or the A-U-M. It is incidentally the word that is referred to in John, the word that was there in the beginning, yes. It's a name for God, and what it is man's vocal representation of the sound of the, what the scientists call the solar wind, if you like, the pranas, the chi, which flows out from the sun. It actually comes into the sun, flows through the sun, and out into the solar system 24 hours a day. And there are those who are capable of having a certain, what we might term psychic hearing, clairaudience, in such a way that they can physically hear this. And it's a low droning sound, and man emulates that by intoning, announcing the A-U-M, or the word, the sound of creation. There is a shortened version known as the O-M, Again, don't say it in conversation. I've met very nice, beautiful people, very devoted people who haven't yet realised that the OM and the AUM are some of the holiest sounds that a human being on earth can make, and you never, not ever, say them in conversation. The word, the AUM, the OM, and that's how you refer to them, but don't say it in normal chit-chat. So, blessed is thy name, O Son. Hallowed be thy name. Alright, the next line, thy kingdom come. The solar system, such that it is a visualization brought into being by the consciousness of the Son, the non-physical consciousness or spirit of the Son, what is known in metaphysical terms as the logos or life force of the Sun. And it visualized the solar system into being, and you can think that in its mind at the time it was thinking about what the solar system would evolve into, where it would go through evolution. So may this solar system evolve in the way that you, O Son, have visualized. May thy kingdom come. Okay? All metaphysical students who have done any homework at all about genuine extraterrestrials will know that all of the major planets and many of the moons in this solar system are inhabited by beings, most of which, I'm certainly talking about humanoid and above human, in this solar system, they are all millions of years senior to us in terms of evolution. So in the next line, or two lines, you are asking the Son that may we evolve to the stage that they have reached. May thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. May we evolve to their stage. And that's what, in my opinion, that means. Let's just go through it because it's easy to lose track. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. For this solar system, this kingdom of life, O Son, is thine. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory. The power that you are continually giving out, the power that you have given so that the solar system can come into manifestation, and the power that you're continually giving to as love energy, which is the preservative force, so that the solar system can remain in being. All that power is thine, O Son. And the glory which is attracted by the solar system as a whole, and by individuals within the solar system. All that glory must go back to the Sun, because it's only because of the Sun that we are here and these things can happen. And may this last for the duration of this solar system, but we say it because we're talking about such infinitely long, as far as we are concerned, time scales, that it's effectively forever. So now look at the Lord's Prayer with the offending lines removed, and you'll see quite clearly that it's a blessing to the Son. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, for thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory forever and ever. You see, it's a blessing to the Son. And I'm fairly sure intuitively, I mean, I don't know as a fact, but intuitively, I would feel that it probably originates in something like 18th dynasty Egypt, the time of Akhenaten, Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, who quite correctly tried to change the state religion in Egypt to the worship of the sun, which is correct. That's where it should be. And so too with Christianity, so-called, these days. For those who don't know about it, in 1958, that great master known as Jesus overshadowed a Western master of yoga by the name of Sir George King. Well documented this. And in Fulham, London, in 1958, Jesus gave what is essentially an extension to his Sermon on the Mount, but with what we might call a New Age view to it. I can't think of the right word there, apologies. And Jesus actually gave what is known as the 12 blessings. If you want to know about that, go to the Aetherius Society, which is a website aetherius.org, and you can read about the 12 blessings, which is a set of spiritual practices which are also educational and are actually 12 individual blessings. But one of those is a blessing to the sun. And in that blessing, Jesus actually said, the sun is the God of the Bible. It is the Brahma of the Hindu scripts. It is the nearest thing to God in your concept of manifestation. So yes, the sun is the nearest thing to God that you can physically see in our skies. Certainly within the solar system. I mean, there are great suns, further afield, but in this solar system, the sun is the nearest thing to God that you can see. It's a highly evolved being. I will also throw in there that unlike myself and you, we are what we might term individual beings. But as we go through evolution over millions, even billions of years, what will happen is individuals at certain levels will go through initiations, so they will come together and form multiple entities. And the sun, as an entity, an evolving entity, which is countless billions of years senior to us, is a vast multiple entity, but it operates as a single being. So it's not a single being in the way that we are. Okay, so the Lord's Prayer, it makes sense when you look at it in that light, and it makes complete sense. Just cheers, Uncle Raggy. We'll move on to just one other aspect of this that some people may find interesting if they haven't heard of it. I mentioned that there are two energy polarities in the cosmos, in manifestation, which enable manifestation. And you essentially have male positive creative, female negative preservative. There is actually a third, which you can think of it as being like a third sex, because it includes both positive and negative, and yet outwardly it is neither. It includes both male and female, and yet outwardly it is neither. It's a balance of the two, which is often why, I believe, depictions of the Lord Krishna, he's depicted as being blue-skinned, which is one way of actually showing the balance between the male and the female, the positive and the negative. It's a balance. It's not towards one or the other. Such a being would be far more male than most of the men on earth, I will tell you, and in many ways far more feminine than certainly most of the women. But it's a complete balance between the two. And so you can actually have three sexes, male, female, and the balance between the two, which is both male and female, and yet outwardly it's neither. It's the balance of the two. Okay, so you need to bear that in mind. Those three qualities exist in the makeup of the sun, and you might call it, I'm using very simple terminology here, in the functionality, if you like, and the makeup of the sun. It contains as part of its functionality male positive creative, female negative preservative, and a third, which is a third aspect, which is a balance of the two, and yet outwardly neither. This same principle applies to atoms that make up matter, because within each atom you have male positive creative protons, female negative preservative electrons, and you also have neutrons, which contain both positive and negative, and yet outwardly they're neither. It's a balance of the two. And there's, as above, so below. When you think about the original, shall we say, formation of the solar system, it's interesting as to how it actually happened. You see, many scientists will look at, if they had been there, what they could have physically seen with these eyes. Oh yes, well, the matter comes together, due to gravity it gets pulled together and it forms a cluster. Temperature in the middle goes up and it melts in it. All the story about how the planets, each individual planet came together as the matter. I don't even know the terminology they use. Coagulated, whatever, and planets formed, and they make it sound as if it just happened to happen. It did not just happen to happen. It's all by design. It's all, as you might say, pre-visualized. When the sun, as a conscious entity, decided it was going to put itself into service to lower life forms, sacrifice itself on the plane of preservation, as the Master Jesus would say, you can imagine it appearing, with a very small a in inverted commas, it appeared in an area of apparently empty space, as a consciousness, a non-physical consciousness, which is what some call spirit, non-physical consciousness. Because spirit or non-physical consciousness is not manifested, it's not material. It doesn't have any dimensions, it does not have any attribute you can actually measure. It has no dimensions. So if you're drawing this diagrammatically, this is just indicated on a diagram as a dot, a point, because a point has no dimensions. The consciousness of the sun in those first, whether it's microseconds or billions of years, I don't know the time scale here, but it was probably shorter rather than longer. It visualized around itself an area within which it was going to operate. And we call this the sun's house, its area of immediate influence, if you like. The sun's house. If you're drawing this on a flat sheet of paper, you draw a circle with a dot in the middle, okay? The glyph for the sun. And you can also relate this, incidentally, as you will see in a moment, to the Celtic cross, which is the cross with the circle around the cross arms. And that, in one respect, relates to this. When the area of operation had been determined by the consciousness or spirit of the sun, the male positive creative aspect of the sun sent a ripple across the circle from the spirit, the non-physical consciousness, the point in the middle, point of consciousness, sent a ripple across the circle in both directions, like a lighthouse sending a beam in both directions. And you can imagine that your diagram as a circle with a line through the middle and a dot in the middle. The positive, male positive creative aspect of the sun then, by mental pressure, by willpower, caused that line to vibrate at right angles to itself. And this is where you get the Celtic cross, the cross through the circle. When that vibration travelled at right angles to the initial line, what it caused to happen, to my understanding, is that the background ether, which is the raw substance, for want of a better term, the fabric of space, it caused the ether to vibrate in complex patterns which set up trillions upon trillions of unbelievably tiny standing wave patterns of vibration. These were subatomic particles, as we would call them. And basic hydrogen formed throughout the sun's house, which on paper is a circle with a dot in the middle. In three-dimensional space it's a sphere. So hydrogen formed. Anyone who knows about music, for example, will know that if you go to a piano keyboard and you play a particular note, say you tap the key for the note C, you can go up the keyboard and there are several other C notes, but they're in different octaves, and you go up in pitch. You have octaves of that frequency we call the C note. So too, when the hydrogen formed in 7 different octaves, and this became the basic template for the 7 planes of vibration, and the basic 7 planes formed, but only consisting of hydrogen as far as chemical elements are concerned. And that was brought into being by the male positive creative aspect of the sun. When that template had basically been, as it were, created, the female negative preservative aspect of the sun started sending out the pranas, the chi, universal life forces, which interacted with the hydrogen atoms and then enabled other consciousnesses, like for example the highly evolved beings that we would call a planet, a planetary logos, the life force of the planet, the non-physical consciousness or spirit, which was going to inhabit what we would call a planetary body. It gave the raw material for the consciousness of a planet to be, to draw together that material and form for itself a planetary body out of the matter that the sun had provided. And then in turn, lesser life forms could draw together energy at a more basic level, and then therefore life came into being on the planets. And so the sun provided an environment for the planets to form. The planets, by the grace of the sun, provide an environment for lesser life forms to exist and evolve. And so the whole thing comes into being as a system of life, a kingdom of life within the solar system. Thy kingdom come. Look back at that stage when the hydrogen first formed. It's interesting that there is a phrase in the Orthodox Church which describes this, but unless it was pointed out to you, you probably wouldn't associate the two. Let's look at this very quickly. The non-physical consciousness or spirit of the sun, operating in a male positive creative energy polarity, caused the hydrogen to form within the sun's house. At that point, some would say that within the sun's house, within that sphere actually, or circle, you have a vast sea of virgin matter. It's virgin matter because it's the basic stuff, but it hasn't yet taken outer forms that life, as it were, can use. So it's not been born yet, you might say. It's virgin matter. When manifestation started to occur, like for example the planets and then the life on the planets, that could only happen because of the non-physical consciousness or spirit of the sun providing the raw material, the sea of virgin matter. So it's the consciousness of the sun and the sea of virgin matter which has made the life possible in the solar system. It's a general principle in metaphysical explanation that when a creator, like for example in this case the sun, brings forth the solar system, because it uses initially the male positive creative force, it's like a male parent, and a male parent is a father. So the Father brings forth its children, and the children are often referred to in metaphysical terminology, again in the male, as the sons, S-O-N, sons of the Father. Okay? So I'm going to say this twice, once in this way I've just been doing, and then I'm going to throw another phrase in which might surprise some people. So when the life came into the solar system, courtesy of the sun, the sons, if you like, or manifestations of life, came into being as a result of the non-physical consciousness of the sun, or spirit, and the sea of virgin matter. What is the Latin word for a sea? Mare. It's the Virgin Sea, the Virgin Mare. So the sun, or the life forms in the solar system, came into being. The sun is incarnate of the Holy Ghost and the Virgin Mary, or Virgin Mare, you see. And that's described or mentioned in Orthodox religion. But they don't tell you that one interpretation of it is the formation of the planetary system. So I hope that's of some interest, and I think this video will be long enough. Thank you.